fascinated to hear really that you're from Canada, but kind of training both in Thailand and Canada and having that sort of nice mix.
I train for Muay Thai only in Thailand so far.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I've trained 1 year. When I was 19, I started training in Toronto, and then I finished high school, and then I felt like I wanted to travel, and I had something to offer Muay Thai as a female, so I went to Santai, and after 2 weeks, I started fighting right away.
2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, just to get into it. And then I was winning, and I only had 3 months. That was my plan. So I decided to fight every single week for the whole 3 months.
Right.
And I won all those fights. So Santai offered me a sponsorship to be there for 9 months, and they would pay for the accommodation. So I just fought for 9 months. But then I started to get to higher level fights, and I only needed to fight every 2 or 3 weeks, maybe once a month.
Yes.
And then I went home, tried to go to college for environmental technology. I didn't like it that much. And then they called me for another sponsorship and to be a part of all these shows. So I just started picking up more jobs. I teach yoga, so I also taught some yoga.
Oh.
And I came back, and I've been here for 4 months now training, and I did 7 fights. And tonight will be my 30th fight altogether.
Right.
And it's my first big show, my first show that I get paid a bit more and everything.
Yes.
So I'm really excited. And it might be a shot for a title. So I train mostly Muay Thai here, and I did a little bit of boxing in Canada, but mostly in Asia.
Right.
Yeah.
So any training you have done in Canada, it's been more sort of fitness based?
No, it's always been fighting, actually, like whether it's Muay Thai or boxing.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe it was fitness as well, but I mostly like to work out for a cause, like if it has a means for something. So mostly it was for like boxing or training for a year to get better in Muay Thai technique. I'm a big fan of technique and the arts, whether it's dance or Muay Thai or boxing. Yeah. So we did a little bit of conditioning and fitness and things like that, but it was based for fighting.
Yes.
Or for dance or something.
And you're training in Thailand. Is that sort of typical Thailand model? What does that kind of entail?
It entails a lot of running. You have to be like a marathon runner to. If you are a marathon runner, you have half the Muay Thai training, because we usually wake up around 5, and then run till 6, and then 2 hours you train. So it's almost like half your training is running. And the Thais run very slowly, so I think it's just to build the muscles as well as a little bit of cardio, but a lot of like the muscles in your legs and stuff like that. And then you just repeat the same techniques day in, day out, and a lot of pad sessions.
Yes. And is there much of a progression from when you're further away from a fight to when a fight's imminent? Is there a change in that training?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, we actually, I made a deal with my coach, because how the Thais train, I guess they train every day at the same pace, but I feel myself to perform my best, I need to have a bit of like a flow, like high training than low training. Yeah. And because I'm here so long, I plan to be here for a couple of years.
Right.
What we do, we call it 2-week training camp. So before a fight, 2 weeks solid, I'll train every day, almost twice a day. But like before that, I could just go sabai, which is just relax and kind of go into the trainings and take it light. And before that, and then I would have a week off after a big fight.
Right.
That's how I do it. And I try not to do any squats or any muscle lifting and stuff like that, because it slows me down a lot.
Right.
But I would like some kind of conditioning for Muay Thai, but the trainers don't really know what to do for that part. So I look on YouTube and try to add it in here or there.
Yeah. Well, I'll point you at some of the articles I've got and give you a hand with that.
Okay, that'd be good.
In terms of what equipment you've got available to you in Thailand, that tends to be another factor. If you are living and training in Thailand, obviously you're limited by what you've got access to. Yeah. In terms of strength and conditioning equipment, so free weights and that kind of thing, have you got access to much of that? Yeah, we have some dumbbells. We have and that's about it. Right. Yeah, just dumbbells and like that heavy bar. Yes, the barbell. The barbells. Yes. And that's about it. Right. So Yeah, we'll have to have a little look, see what you've got there, and I'll give you some ideas.
Okay.
In terms of this particular fight, has your training been different for that because it is a bigger fight? Have you found there's a change?
What I like to try are sprints. That's why I add some sprints, but that's what I've found. So usually we run like 7 to 15K.
Right.
Especially before the fights, you do more of the 15Ks. So sometimes what I'll do, instead of doing a 15K, I'll run 7, but every like minute I'll run for 10 seconds straight, like really fast.
Yes. And
then slow down, because I know I'll kind of judge my opponent a little bit depending where they're from. I feel like the girls from Thailand they definitely won't do sprints and things like that. So I just add that in.
Yeah, but that's something you've personally introduced rather than something you've been suggested to try.
Yeah, that's something I personally introduced myself. We also have a mountain run, so it's just a 11K mountain. There's a slight incline the whole way.
Yes.
So I'll just try to add that in as well. Just have a bit of a difference against my opponent.
Do you get a lot of free time as such for you to take on your own training, or is it all pretty structured?
It's pretty structured, and there's not much time in the day because you train 5 till 8, and then again 4 till 7.
Yes.
And then in between, like I just want to eat and sleep.
Yeah.
And like rest or just talk to people a little bit here or there. But there's not much time to like in the middle of the day to just do weights. Or what I like to do is yoga. Like if I could come in 30 minutes early and just stretch, I find that helps a lot.
Yes.
It helps relax your mind and your muscles. It gets you prepped for it. It lowers your injury rate as well.
Yes.
So
I've got quite a few clients that do yoga as well, and one in particular that's a yoga teacher who's also done some Muay Thai with me.
Okay.
It was fascinating to chat to her because she was so aware of how her body felt, and with her yoga practice as well, she could feel exactly what the effect was of doing the Thai boxing. So she could feel where it was getting tight.
Yeah, and I guess
do you find that?
A lot of people don't notice that, but as a yoga teacher, you can actually see that in people too. If like their shoulders are too tight, and you can see if their hips are too tight. I know my trainer, my main trainer, I always after class help him with like his back, because you can see as he walks, his back's really tight, like his butt's kind of curving out, and he kind of just looks tight. So you want to take care of your trainer as well.
Do you notice that then? Obviously, you've got an eye for posture as well. That with the volume of training, with it being so specific, especially in Thailand, that there is a lot of sort of postural adaptations that you see from fighting stance or even just holding pads a lot.
Like with the trainers, I noticed their lower back. Actually, a lot of fighters, their lower back looks very tight. It's either their feet are out like this, or their back's curved somehow. Yeah, and I think it probably hurts to be fighting so many years and not really dealing with that injury. It just builds, because if you just ignore it, it doesn't hurt at first, but it just builds, right?
Yes.
So the best way I think to deal with it is yoga. So for your client, for her doing yoga and Muay Thai, it's really good, I guess. Like if she says that she could feel all those little differences in her body, that's good. As a fighter, I think that's a good thing to know. Yeah,
definitely. It's something I've personally started doing recently as well.
Yoga?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
It's good for your mentality and like your energy. It is.
I find it really interesting how it very much seems to be the opposite end of the same spectrum. The Thai boxing is kind of like pushing into uncomfortable zones in a different way. Yeah. And fast, that's that power. But the yoga is almost, you've got a bit more time to stop and check what's going on. And with some of the positions, they're uncomfortable as well, and you can test your mind a bit there as well.
Yeah, it's like extreme yin and extreme yang.
Yes.
I guess Muay Thai is the yang and yoga is the yin.
Yeah.
Because you do I guess you stay still in one awkward position for a very long time, and that's just as tiring as like hitting pads as fast as you can for 5 minutes.
I've personally found that.
Yeah, that's good.
In terms of other support then, so nutrition's quite a big part of what we're doing. Yeah. Have you got any sort of special ways of...
no nutrition advice. I try to talk to as many people that do nutrition as possible, because if I ask the trainers like what to do, they're just going to say eat rice and eat beef.
Yeah.
So
just
I try.
Fueling up. I mean, when you're training as often as regularly as you are in Thailand, then calories in is very important to support what you're doing.
I think nutrition makes a big difference. Recently, there was someone who was really good with nutrition, and they gave me just a little bit of advice, and I feel a lot better than before. It was just basically, I think, high fat, high protein, and then just slowly lower the carbs.
Yes.
So just like have avocados and nuts and like a little bit of rice, but not as much as they suggest. It's too much.
What about in terms of cutting weight? You know, have you got much of a process for that? I'm just thinking from the nutrition side, that sort of feeds into it. I just wondered.
Have you heard of, I think it's called ketosis?
Yes.
Ketosis. I try to get into the ketosis phase a couple weeks before the fight, and the weight just starts dropping really easily. And I stay at 55 kilos.
Right.
And I usually drop to like 52 kilos or 51, so it's not too bad. Just as a female, like each month you get, you know, you get bloated sometimes, and things, so it's a little harder. But I find the ketosis diet helps a lot. Like it drops a lot faster without stress.
So how far out from the fight do you start looking at that?
About 2 weeks.
Right.
I get prepared. Like I'll start having lots of vegetables and meat mostly, and like no rice at all.
Yeah.
I'll just have like nuts for carbs, and for carbs I'll have basically just nuts and vegetables and some fruit here or there.
And then after the weigh-in, you're back on the carbohydrates, are you? Yeah.
I'm like, yes. Taking a chocolate bar, you're there.
It's hard not to go crazy, isn't it, after the weigh-in?
Yeah, it's very hard, but I've gotten better because now I think I've had like 3 big weight cuts so far, and so now, and then you see a difference if you just jump into candy right after. It's not good. It's not healthy at all to just eat a bunch of chocolate, and then you're really bloated. It's not like you gain weight. It's just you're actually bloated. Your body doesn't know what to do with it. I'm sure that's what's happening.
I've got kind of like an analogy of a muddy puddle. So I kind of find when you particularly when you cut the carbohydrates before the fight, it's almost like you're detoxing.
Yeah,
and then once you start reintroducing the carbohydrates, you feel exactly how they make you feel. So it's kind of like your puddle gets clear, and you can see the bottom, and then you start adding the carbohydrates. It's like you're stirring up the mud again. It all gets cloudy. You can't really tell where it's come from. And I've personally felt that with carbohydrates.
That's true, actually. I think it's probably good. That's one thing why I like weight cut, actually, because I feel like you're actually getting healthier if you do it right. Yeah, it's a lot cleaner. I think maybe if you stick to it, maybe you'll be a better athlete the next time you have to cut weight, or just feel better in general, right?
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah. I think it's your body reacts to the fuel mix, doesn't it, that you put into it. And do
you think that you should have carbs at all, like?
Yes, I do think that you need carbohydrates for your training, because you're gonna have better quality training if you've got the carbohydrates on board, because that's your main fuel for energy.
Right.
But come weight cut time, the carbohydrates make you store on water.
Right.
So I don't know if you realise, but it's the carbohydrates stored in your muscle, the glycogen, that holds on to quite a bit of water as well. So when you deplete the stored carbohydrate, you lose that water weight as well.
Okay. But then you also lose muscle, or? No.
It's almost, if you think of your muscles being like a sponge with gaps in them, and those gaps take the glycogen, and so they sit in there.
Oh, okay.
But it needs water with it for fuel.
Oh.
So when you cut the glycogen, you lose the water that goes with it as well, because it needs that water to process the energy.
But the muscle is still there.
The muscle's still there, it's just empty of energy.
So what specifically grows the muscles? Is it just protein?
Protein is the building block of the muscles themselves. So if you need protein, that also repairs the damage that you do to your muscles in your training all the time as well. So if you cut the protein too much, then you don't recover as well.
Right.
But if you think of carbohydrate as purely the energy so that you have a good quality training session to give you the movements that you want, the quality you want without being too tired and sloppy.
So it's like just have carbs at the right time, like right before training.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah, and actually immediately after training is good, especially if you're training multiple times a day.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So you can have it after as well, and I guess it still burns.
The thing is, if you imagine, So the stored energy in your muscle, the glycogen, only works in that muscle. So say for example you've been throwing a lot of punches and your arms are really tired after your training session, but you hadn't done much with your legs. I know it's not a very good example for Thai boxing, but you'd have legs that were full of energy and arms that were empty. But the energy won't move from the muscles in your legs to your arms. The only way to get that is to get some carbohydrate in your bloodstream, and then it flows around the body and then goes, oh, there's some holes to fill, and it fills them up. So eat or drink some carbohydrates and you'll get your muscles filled back up with energy so they can train again with good quality.
This is good. Is this on your blog?
Yes, all that's there. I think I've done a blog on that.
This will be like my new nutrition regimen. Your blog. Use your blog.
Well, there's lots of info on there. Have a good look around. If you've got any questions and stuff, just message me or whatever, and I'll point you at some of the blogs I've probably already written, or if I haven't, I'll write something at some stage.
Awesome.
There's some ideas out there.
Yeah, that'll be very helpful. I got yelled at a lot of times before because I just didn't know how to cut weight, and and I'm hungry and I'm craving stuff. So the first thing you go to is chocolate and candy.
Yes, yeah.
So, and you sneak it too, just like feel guilty, but you don't know what else to do. What happened was actually, because my coach was so used to me doing that, and before I was just a little bit younger, I guess, and I couldn't control it. But recently I was cutting weight, and I was just pointing to somebody like, these are really good brownies, you should try them. And he told my coach that, oh yeah, she just had some brownies. So he messages me like, you're eating brownies? I was just like, yeah, because I thought he was joking. He's like, that's it, pack your stuff, you're coming to my house, we're locking the door. Like, he was serious. I'm just like, I was joking. It's not happening. But yeah, some of the funny stories that happened. At the moment, it didn't feel funny though. I was really upset. I was like, I'm not sleeping, not being locked in a room. But,
you mentioned earlier, obviously, female fighters with menstruation periods and all this kind of stuff going on as well, and making weight. That's all a lot different to the fellas.
It is. It's very hard because if you don't eat what you need to, because you're wasting all this, like, I don't want to be gross, but blood and everything, right? And it's a lot of magnesium and iron and all that's leaving your body, and on top of that you have to cut weight, and then it makes your body hold on to even more water. Like, it makes it hold on to as much as it can. So if you feed a little bit and eat a little bit, it's stuck, and then if you're not eating, you get migraines. It's a really hard thing, because sometimes you try to say it to guys like, oh, like, you're on your period or whatever, and they're just like, oh, it's an excuse. But have you experienced that before, right? And on top of training and already being exhausted, you're losing iron and all this stuff that you can't really have because it's in carbohydrates or whatever the reason is. And
the whole thing with ladies being much more sensitive to hormone balance than guys as well, so we get it easy. You know, we can cut stuff, it doesn't really affect our bodies that much.
Yeah, they can have chocolate
ladies,
in it.
Your system is so fine-tuned to hormonal balance that shifting it with food as well, it really messes you up.
Yeah, it does. Sometimes I can't talk to people because I'm either so tired or I'm just like on edge because of what I'm eating. Or especially when there's like, I think there's 3 days it takes for your body to get all the sugar out of your system. So as you're like detoxing from all that sugar, those 3 days you feel extremely tired. And then to add, like when you do have your menstruation each month, before you actually have your period, like I think it's about a week before, you already start losing all these things, all these minerals and vitamins. And for some women it's every 4 weeks, some women it's for every 3 weeks. So it's only 1 week really, or a couple weeks that you have like a lot of strength. So I guess it's really, really important for women to be on a good nutrition diet as an athlete, especially if you're a very active fighter or you're a very active athlete. I still trying to figure that out.
I think it's individual as well. What works for one person doesn't for another. In terms of an emotional state as well. I mean, I've had first-hand experience. My wife fights as well, and there's certain type of fights that I've kind of tried to speak to her in certain ways to get her ready to fight. And sometimes, I mean, because we've got children, I kind of like, you're protecting your children. And one fight or two, that's been like brilliant. It's like,
it works.
It worked. And then I guess different time of the menstruation period.
It pisses her off.
And she got all emotional and upset instead. I was like, oh, this did not work today.
Yeah.
Have you found anything like that?
Yeah. That's why I'm laughing, because it's so true, because those things that you're saying could work one moment.
Yeah.
And it's really good that you have a trainer that could understand that you're like that. We don't mean to take it out on you, just that we are really going through a lot of like things, and it's physical as much as it is emotional. I mean, like when you're missing those vitamins and minerals, and then you're training, and it really does affect. But it's good that you hang in there and keep trying different things. I guess. And
it's trying to work out which one's going to work today.
Yeah.
And you know, you don't often know. So as a trainer, it's kind of it's to be wary of that and to not to sabotage without knowing it.
Yeah, my coach is pretty good. Like he's pretty understanding. Like we've gotten to a point where I can just tell him like, yeah, don't worry about my weight. Right? I know I'm holding on to the water, but it's gonna just leave it to me because I know how my body works and stuff. There was one time, like I don't usually cry after fights, but this one fight I was sick, and then I was on the menstruation cycle, and I just did a fight, and then I was so close to winning and I lost, right? And then he gets excited and he's just like, you should have done this, you're so close, da da da. I'm like, I know, and then I started crying. I was just like, why? He never saw me cry before. It's just like, it's just because it's just, I guess you just need different advice for different times, and a coach or a manager that's very understanding, especially for women, and try not to think that like just try to understand that it is like we are going through something physical too, just as it's tough for women.
I think the closest that fellas can relate to is perhaps if we've not had a lot of sleep, and how you just kind of feel, I'm different today.
And on edge.
And that's probably about the closest we can get to understanding it. But
you guys are lucky. In a
We
way.
are. We get the easy deal.
It's kind of funny and fun though. It's like a good experience to, I guess, go through all these different emotions. There's a beauty in it, I guess, like from things being hard and tough, and like going through all these changes. And as you get older, you'll get more control over it, I guess.
Yes.
I hope. I
don't know. Work it out.
Yeah, work it out.
What would you kind of see yourself doing next then? So you say you've got an extended time now in Thailand training.
Yes, extended as I can.
Yes.
Yeah. I've always been into natural ways of healing. Ever since I was very young, like 16, I would read books about nutrition, and I got my yoga certification when I was 18, 19, just to teach it and practice it. I would like to get into something where I could help athletes heal. Just like you were saying, we were both talking about Muay Thai is the yang and then yoga is the yin.
Yes.
I would like to teach more people how to heal themselves actively and how to stretch in between training so that way they don't get injured. So maybe work with athletic injuries or strength conditioning.
Yes.
While I'm here, I want to save some of the money for my fights to go to India and upgrade my yoga certification.
Oh yeah.
And maybe next year or in a couple years, when I start to slow down a little bit, if I could go to New Zealand and do like maybe some kind of program, like a sports therapy program or something, and hopefully I could still train in Muay Thai and maybe teach in Muay Thai, teach other women, because what I go through, if I could give that to other women, and help them with experience, that would make me happy. I don't think just being a fighter is complete without giving back. I think it's the whole culture of Muay Thai. And why people like Muay Thai. That's a bit of the culture to give back.
Brilliant.